Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another episode of Fight Court. Dean Thomas, joined with my man Ryan Quinn. And we are in New York City, Madison Square Garden, UFC 309. And it gives me great pleasure to bring one of the combatants who will be taking part of the prestigious event. Eryk Anders, what's up, man?
What's happening?
Oh, well, your boy, Eryk Anders. Man, it's always good to talk to you. But first, before we get into anything fight-related, let me take my hat off. I commend you for the growth that you have had in these last couple of years. And it was kind of on the low, too, because no one really knew what you was going through. Like, as if it, I mean, not to say that I don't know how bad or how deep it was, but no one knew what you were going through until you was on the other side talking about, yo, I'm good now. And I was like, word, that's great to hear. So what happened, man? What was you going through and where are you now?
I mean, I wasn't ever like sitting under a bridge with a needle in my arm or nothing like that. But, man, I was just out partying a lot, doing a lot of stuff I shouldn't have do, drinking, smoking, any pill, drug, or, you can put it up your nose or swallow it. I was doing it, So, yeah, just, kind of made a decision to knock it off. And, it's been a little over a year now since I've touched anything. I drink a little bit every now and again, but, special occasions or something like that.
Well, man, I'm proud of you, man. That takes a lot of courage to do that and then admit it and then to keep going. So keep going, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't, we got your back. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you need somebody to get you in the right headspace, I got your back on that, man. So keep going, man. Stay strong with that.
That's awesome. You're able to recognize that and turn it around, man. Seriously. Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. So you got this fight coming up Saturday, Chris Weidman. How did that matchup come about for you?
I don't know. I don't have nothing to do with the the backroom, conversations and things like that. I was just hanging out, got a text, you want to fight Madison Square Garden? And I didn't even hear the opponent or nothing. The answer is yes, because, I think for like a boxer, an MMA fighter, anybody who does combat sports, Madison Square is the mecca and the pinnacle arena of the sport. No matter where you're at in the world, everybody's heard of Madison Square Garden, some of the legendary fights that have gone on there. So every year, I hit them up and want to fight in Madison Square. Like, don't care who, just, this is like a bucket list venue for me. So, it's just icing on the cake that I get to fight a former champion and a guy like Chris Weidman.
That's awesome, bro. So we got you here. I got to talk a little football.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Crimson Tide, man. How they doing? What do you think about their season so far? Are you following them? I know it's common that a lot of people don't truly follow their sport after. I know, like, I kind of stepped away from MMA for a little bit, so I get it.
Nah, yeah, of course I watch. I still live in Birmingham, and it's kind of hard to not keep up. Even if you don't watch, it's going to be everywhere. So, I'm glad that, Milroe's using his legs a lot more now. I think they're going to be much tougher to beat. Now they got an extra running back, and they have all these, super talented receivers that are going to run downfield with defenders' backs to them. So he'll have plenty of opportunity to run, get yards, make first downs, and make big plays. So I don't know if he's been hurt this year or that's kind of what the speculation has been, that he's been nursing an injury. But, they're peaking at the right time.
Nice. Yeah. I got two more questions for you with that. First of all, I love watching that kid Ryan Williams, especially he's so young. I feel like he's going to grow into his body and he's going to be like something else, man. That's Jesus, 17 years old.
Yeah, he's a phenom for sure.
Yeah. So I read recently about your relationship with Nick Saban, and I love that you guys still stay in touch after. And being someone who I've been on both sides of that, had a great relationship with the coach. And then after, I remember when I was coaching, and then when I stepped away after COVID 2 years later, one of my athletes asked me to write a letter of recommendation for him. It's like, wow, it's great having that relationship. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Saban's the man, dude. He's got I hate to, no pun intended, but he's got the memory of an elephant, dude. He remembers all his players. their personalities, their families, their kids, and all these things. So, it's just kind of like, one of those homeboys when you see them, you may not see him for a few years, but then you see him and, you pick up right where you left off.
Yeah.
And I think it's amazing that he can do that at his age with all the great players that he's had come through there.
So this is something that Dean and I talk about fairly often, about football players transitioning to MMA. And me coming from like the fight nerd side of it, I'm always like, man, especially coming from the defensive side of the ball, I'm like, why don't these guys they have the world-class level change. Why don't they just blast double and ground and pound and be that? But you see so many football players coming to MMA and they're so comfortable standing and striking, standing and banging. Like, what when it just came naturally, like, man, I'm just going to be more of a stand-up, like what came into you to become the identity of a fighter you are?
I don't know. I think I'm still evolving. I've wrestled
Mhm.
a lot more these last few fights. But I think it's like a personality trait. One, I think it's like a certain kind of person that actually wants to go, get in there and fight somebody in the cage under a certain rule set with one other person. Not everybody. This is such a big, fastest growing sport because everybody wish that they could do that or, had the courage to do that, but they don't. So they'll just watch you do it. Football is a little bit different, I think. A lot of people want to, but they're not 6'5". They're not, 230. They have weight classes in the sport. So whether you're like big, small, whatever, if you really wanted to, you could do it. You know what I mean? But it's not a lot of people lining up to do it, So I think it's a personality trait, first of all. And then two, I don't know. It's just I think that more athletes would do it if they were able to kind of set their ego aside and go from being a black belt in whatever sport there is, whether it be football, basketball, soccer, or whatever. And they go back to being a white belt and being the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to fighting, because you can be the most athletic person in the world, but if you don't know how to throw a punch correctly or whatever, it can be easy to get taken down. And then you get taken down and somebody holds you down. You don't want to be there. It's a miserable feeling. But everybody, I think, has to go through that part to, get better, get good enough to go fight, professionally and on into the UFC. And I think it's just human nature to not want to go through that daily grind.
Great analogy.
Eryk, you represent Birmingham like no one else.
There ain't nobody else.
It ain't nobody else. It's like you and I think Deontay Wilder's from there, right?
Or he's from Tuscaloosa. It's like an hour down the road. So, Walt Harris is from there.
Walt's my boy.
Yeah, but they don't rep like you do. Like Walter's my man, but I don't think he really fully. Him and Marcus Brimage, they don't rep Birmingham like you do. You know what I'm saying? And
it's Alabama's my adopted home. Well, it's home now. I'm not originally from there, but I've been there. The last off and on like 20-something years. So I've been there just a little over half my life. So I enjoy it. There's not a lot to bring eyes and attention to Birmingham. So, I try to kind of help do that and, see, people think of Birmingham, they think it's like Mississippi. And it ain't that. You know what I'm saying? We have skyscrapers, we have a city, we have, I don't live in the country. We have that in Alabama, of course, but, I live in a, nice neighborhood and, there's plenty to do there.
Yeah, I drove through it. I drove through it a couple of years ago, and I was like, okay, I see it. Okay, okay, Birmingham. But my real question is, you rep that city like it's your own. Like you put it on your back. What's the love like for you as you're in Birmingham?
Oh, it's great. One, it's not like LA or Miami or Vegas. There's just not a whole bunch of athletes who stay there, train there, live there. So it's, I'm like the only one, me and Deontay, and he's an hour away. And I love the city. So it's not like I'm there against my will, you know what I mean? It's just, and then I play football there too. So
that's what I'm saying. Like you got it from everything, right? Do people still recognize you as a football player or the MMA guy now?
Well, I think they recognize my name because, you know, I used to have this, you know, luxurious afro back then, and then I wear a helmet and a face mask, so they really don't know what I look like as a football player. You know what I mean? But they know the name, and then of course fighting. You know, you're wearing next to nothing, so yeah, they recognize like my face from fighting, but the name from football.
Got it. Well, Eryk, man, I'm gonna let you go ahead and get back to doing your thing. It's fight week. I know you gotta stay focused, weight cut, get all that good stuff out of the way. But man, appreciate the time, homie.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you.
Man, thank
Kick
you,
some
thank
ass on
you.
Saturday.
Yeah, man. Best of
Pride
luck.
of Birmingham.
Rooting
That's
for
it.
you. And I hope to catch you on the flip, man. Let's talk soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Holler at me whenever you get here.
All right, my man. Peace.
All right,
Hey, bro.
later.
What a good
All right,
dude.
y'all. Eryk Anders, one half of a fight between Chris Weidman on the weekend. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be an interesting fight, actually. An interesting fight. You know,
Well,
I don't really know how to look at that fight. What's that?
He's half of the fight.
He's half of the fight.
I'm not the math guy here. You're the math guy.
Well, yeah, it's him and Chris Weidman. It's two of them. He's
All
half.
right. We don't got to split atoms here.
Well, no, it's an interesting fight because, you know, Chris is not that great of a striker.
Yeah,
he's not. But recently he's been striking with guys and really doing well, right? Like and like you don't think of Chris as a striker. It's weird because for a guy who's not a striker, he's had some great moments striking in fights. And some pretty bad ones, but
you
some
know,
great moments in fights striking guys.
He's got real heavy hands, and I think that he gets striking credit because of the Anderson Silva knockout 10 years ago. But I mean, he had good striking against Lyoto Machida again. That was 10 years ago.
No, but even when he fought Silva, Bruno Silva, just the last time he fought, like we're all thinking. I mean, yeah, he poked him in the eyes a gang of times.
He had some accuracy, if you know.
But the whole time we're thinking, man, he's gonna, Chris is gonna get knocked out, and yet he took Bruno Silva's best shots and delivered his as well. I thought it might have been the best he's looked on his feet, like in terms of just pure skill and not just landing a big one, but the best he's done on his feet.
I tell you, man. Okay, yes, he does. He's got enhanced striking. I don't want to say improved striking because it was never terrible, but it was never great either. And but against somebody like Eryk, I feel like I was watching Eryk a little bit tonight, and he's able to move his head with his punches and stuff like that. It's hard because I don't feel that Chris really has angle punches. You know what I'm saying? Like everything he throws is a true right hand, a true jab, a true hook. Actually, most of his combinations are a pretty basic 1-2-3, 1-2-3-2, or 2-3-2 rather. And that's the other thing. They're both left-handed going into this fight.
Well, I don't even want to give the advantage in striking to either of them.
We'll break it down. I give the jab advantage to Eryk. I give the power punching to Chris.
See, I go the other way. I think Eryk hits harder.
Okay.
I think Eryk hits harder, I think Eryk hits harder. Chris might be more technically disciplined.
You're right. I take that back. Okay. Well, then I'm just giving the overall striking to Eryk then because I think but I
don't even want to give him that because Chris might look a little better when he does it, and I think that counts for something.
Because he could. The thing is, like, I mean, we have a lot more tape to watch of Chris, but when Chris, like, when he lands punches, like, even like if it's a shoulder, like he's knocking that guy off balance. I guess we really haven't seen that from Eryk yet, but he's been dropping fools. In this last, he's been exploding them halfway across the cage. But that being said, I think that he's going to be hard to take down as well. Because
you think Eryk's going to be hard to take down?
Yeah. I mean, he looks like he could be a little stiff in his feet sometimes, but he's got strong hips. People have tried to take him down and have been unsuccessful. And I think Chris, his level change isn't what it used to be, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult for him.
See, I don't know, man. I almost think that Chris can get him down. I think Chris's wrestling is really good. And
okay.
But I mean, that sounds
Explain.
really
I'll meet you
vague.
halfway on that, but explain. I'll meet you halfway on
No,
that.
that sounds really vague, but I think there's a lot of factors in this, and this is one thing that I've been trying to be more aware of as I'm doing my analysis of fights are the factors, like all the factors, not just what we see on the surface. And when I look at a guy like Chris, who has had so many injuries and who has been hurt for so long, that you got to imagine that he has to tailor his training to really only focus on the good stuff. And if he's focusing on the good stuff, you would have to imagine that he's focusing on his best takedowns and really leaning into that stuff and not wasting a lot of energy. I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he's not, maybe he's still banging it out and like hurting himself in practice, but I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying that he's doing himself a good service by focusing on the good stuff. And if he can do that, I think he gets Eryk down.
I think that if I'm Chris, not even just for this fight against Eryk Andrews, I'm doing this the rest of my career. I'm just taking the cage out of the fight, and I'm just bullying people against the fence and just doing cage takedowns. I think he could take him down if he's against the cage, no question. Whether it's with body locks or double legs, but if Eryk can control the center, it's going to be a rough night trying to do that. I think that Chris needs to find ways to bully him against the cage to win this fight.
I'll tell you one thing though, if Eryk can turn it into a dog fight, there's not many guys in the middleweight division that's going to outdog Eryk.
No, too athletic.
He's a dog, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember his fight against Khalil Roundtree?
Yeah.
I thought he was like near death in that fight, and he was just getting back up. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
A lot of his fights have been just wars like that. So I think
and
he
now
has
he's all
the advantage
clean too. And now he's clean. His last fight was in March, and now he says he's been pretty clean for a year. So I'm sure he's had some physical maturity during that time too. So it's going to be interesting to see him on Saturday.
So let's get on to the main event here, the one that everybody's been talking about, John and Stipe. What do you think?
I got John winning. I got John winning by finish, actually. I think that when he got hurt the last time, I thought that was Stipe's window. I'm like, you know what? I mean, Stipe just I saw it today. Actually, it's been 3 years since he fought, and
he got brutally knocked out.
Yeah.
But not that matters. I think. I don't
think that matters. But I just, I just don't think that. I think that Stipe, what got Stipe by was he was always very athletic for a heavyweight.
Mm-hmm.
He's an athlete, but very athletic for heavyweight. That gets canceled out Saturday night against the greatest fighter to ever live, who's arguably one of the greatest athletes to ever do the sport as well.
Have you seen him dunk a basketball?
John Jones or Stipe?
Yeah. John Jones. There's a clip out of John Jones trying to dunk a basketball, and I promise you, when you see that clip, you're going to take that statement back about him being a great athlete.
All right. Well, then
it is worse than you think, Ryan. It is him.
Oh,
it is worse than you think.
Oh man, what a loser! How did he put me in this situation?
No, I'm with you on this. I think Stipe does make it interesting, though, only because John is he's not a bully type fighter. He doesn't come out and overwhelm you, or he's a -650 favorite, which to me is a bit misleading, because when you see that type of odd, you think, oh, he's going to go out there and just maul him, and I don't see that happening. I do think he wins, 6 out of 10 times at least, but at the same time, it doesn't look like the way we think it's going to look. I think it's going to be very strategic and calculated, and he just picks him apart and then just runs away, goes downhill with his victory on this. And I feel like that. I think Stipe is going to fight a very honorable fight. I don't think he's going to look bad. He's just going to eventually look old and I think he's going to get submitted. I think John is going to submit him.
Yeah, the fight's going to snowball on him. Roll downhill, and that snowball is going to get bigger and bigger. That's kind of how I saw it going too.
All right, co-main event, we got Michael Chandler going against Charles Oliveira for the rematch. The first one obviously was as barn burner as you can get, and Oliveira ended up getting his hand raised in the end of that. Do you see anything different this time?
5 more minutes to the fight. That's
and then
really,
it happens.
yeah. I just man, I feel like if Michael would figure out how to get back to some wrestling in his game, he would be so much more effective and he would save himself getting some damage. But I don't see Mike doing that. And especially this would be the right fight to do it because against Makhachev, he got kind of dominated and but I feel like that Oliveira is just going to Mike's had, though they both had a layoff, but like I think that Oliveira is just going to get his timing down and get him against the fence like he's been getting so many people.
See, I completely disagree. And again, I'm looking at some unseen circumstances. And to me, the way I look at it is Michael Chandler came to the UFC and never really fought well. He came to the UFC, never really. Okay, he knocked out Dan Hooker, but that was so early in the fight. He didn't get a chance to really fight and show what he's made of.
Yeah.
Then he fought. His other win was against Tony Ferguson, which he was losing until the front kick up the middle. So he's never really shown us that he's a good fighter. He came out and he gave us a lot of entertaining fights. And then he had those wins that were pretty quick or just not very solid, right? They weren't very reliable or solid. Then he wasted 2 years of his career waiting around for Conor McGregor. I think Michael Chandler is going to look at all that and go, you know what? I owe it to myself and I owe it to the fans to go out and give them the best version of myself, not just an entertaining fighter, but the best version of myself. And I think he goes out there and I think he wrestles and I think he's more patient. I think he fights a better fight. I think he keeps his hands up higher. I think he's going to fight his best fight to prove to himself and to the world that he belongs at the top of the UFC level because he's never really had an opportunity to do that.
So, but if he's going through that mindset, and let's go back to his Bellator days. When was the last time he truly fought a disciplined fight, though? I feel like if he's winning in rounds 1.5, and he's doing that, I feel like he's going to get caught up in some kind of crazy exchange, crazy scramble. And whether it's a striking exchange or a grappling exchange, I think Charles gets the better of him at all that.
I know, man. And I'm just hypothesizing here, hoping and praying that Michael Chandler is doing it. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, I mean, in Bellator, he was young and he didn't really even like the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now he knows the upside. He knows what his upside is. And I think if you put all those things into context and the people that he surrounds himself with, a bunch of successful people, winners, I think they're probably like, hey, listen, man, everybody knows you're entertaining. Everybody knows you're a spaz. But can you win at the highest level? Go out there and win at the highest level. And this is a big moment for him that he can prove that he can win at the highest level. And I think if he beats a guy like Charles Oliveira, that erases what everybody thinks about him for waiting around for 2 years for Conor McGregor, even though everybody else would have did it.
Honestly, if he pulls it off and he lays on top of him for 15 minutes, I'm cool with that because he's been a good company, man. He's fought a lot of dudes for them, and he waited for the Conor fight. If he just wins the fight by mauling him and just staying on top, good for Michael. So I'm down with it.
All right, now the big fight of the week that I really want to get to, Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
I can't believe I'm on a podcast talking about a Mike Tyson fight. Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thought? No one could have predicted this. No matter how you slice it for me, until it's over, I'm going to just assume that Mike Tyson's about to get slumped. Brutally knocked out.
I think that, like everybody, my heart is picking Mike Tyson. My head is picking Jake Paul. I think that Mike needs to try to win that fight within 90 seconds, and then he's just going to get real tired, and then boom, face the floor, like you said.
Do you remember when Max got knocked out? The emotion that everybody had.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be worse.
It's totally going to be worse.
It's going to be like that times 10. Like when watching Mike Tyson get knocked out by Jake Paul, he's going to be like, it's going to be one of the moments where everybody's going to know where you are when you saw it.
Yeah.
And then, but here's the thing though. I think Jake Paul is charming in a way where he knocks out Mike Tyson and then just totally kisses Mike Tyson's ass.
Yeah, he could sell. The dude
he's not gonna talk trash. He's gonna be like, I'm just so happy to be in here with a legend. And he's gonna try to make it better by pumping Mike Tyson up. But the reality is this shouldn't even be happening.
Man, you remember a couple of years ago, Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson had that fight, and there was like no striking to the head or anything like that. That leads me to believe there's two instances that lead me to believe that Mike Tyson has lost his power. And that fight, because he could have knocked him out to the body, he totally could have dug to the body on that dude. And then that fight he had on the plane, where that dude was actually awake after the exchange. And I was like, oh man, I said, oh, man, Mike might.
Hey, that's telling. I didn't even think about that. When that is telling.
And he was punching down on the guy, and the guy,
no,
oh, dude, I'm like, the power's not there anymore, man.
Well, here's what I know. When Evander Holyfield fought Vitor Belfort, it was a complete abomination.
Yeah, forgot about that.
I mean, it was as one-sided as you could get. He threw like one jab and it just got mowed down. How is this going to be I don't see how this could be any different. I don't see how a 58-year-old man walks down a 30-year-old, very athletic, very disciplined athlete that has spent the last 5 years of his life dedicating himself to training the art of boxing with the best coaches he can have.
They all got a plan until I hit him in the face. Mike Tyson needs to live by that. That's the best he's got going for him right now. I mean, if he gives me 10, 15 seconds of that, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. But,
I think that's all he's got, because when you look at the clips, they're all 5 seconds, cut, 5 seconds, cut, 5 seconds, cut. We've yet to see 2 minutes of real work.
He's saving it. By saving it, I don't mean he's not showing us the camera. I mean he's saving his energy for the fight.
Yeah, he's saving it for the fight. All right, well, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week. I promise you that. Between Stipe and John, Jake Paul and Tyson, Eryk Anders and Chris Weidman, we got UFC 309. We got a lot to talk about. And there's a karate combat going on this week too. So a lot to talk about. But Ryan, let's do it again. Let's chop it up again next week.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe, comment. Till then, this court is adjourned.